Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So, new Alliance War Season 29, and I'm in a new alliance, new nation, a lot of new things floating around. And the very first war we are up against GT40. They are very capable alliance right now, and it was already showing. So it is a very tough start. I will be doing parts 4 and 9 and some mini-boss fights, so I actually do have some interesting fights to share with you guys. How Captain America Infinity War, tiny little common man 5-star, and then I have Shang-Chi and Nick Fury. The first fight is this thing, and I have done this fight quite a few times with Nick Fury in past. It is not the quickest fight, but it's also not the hardest fight. Because Nick Fury has all of those guaranteed bleed effects on basically any attack he throws. It's very easy to manage the rock stack charges. If you want, you can make sure that he never reaches 15 by just doing like 3-4 hit combos. Or you can just, be okay with him getting to those 15 charges and just keeping an eye on that. But it doesn't really happen all that often. The point is, he's going down. And obviously Nick Fury gets rid of that heal block debuff, so I am managing to heal along the way during the fight, and things are working out just a-okay. No complaints here. You can see that the first 50% actually went quite quick. I think the last 50% is going to take a bit longer for whatever reason. But still, full yellow bar here, and very happy-go-lucky Nick Fury absolutely tears in that thing. Ability to purify all debuffs on knockdown is obviously also helpful, because that gives me Fury, and I can still manage to heal in between as well. Obviously the protection can get annoying, but it is what it is. He's at 25% here now. As I said, the last 50% took me a bit longer. I think at some point he didn't really want to throw special attack as well, but still 17%. And I still have 3.5 minutes left, so it took me a minute and a half to get down 80%, 85%, so it's all good. Here I want him to throw that level 2, as, I don't want to be at risk of, messing up, eating a combo and him dropping a level 3 at me, so it's rather to keep his power bar somewhere in the lower side. And here, once again, 9% left on thing, another full combo, 4%. I think I'm gonna he puts on protection. I think I'm gonna try and push through it with my level 2, but that still doesn't get the job done. He's at like 1%, but here we go. 2 minutes 10 seconds, not the best fight, not the hardest one either though. And next up I will be going up against that T-Rex. The T-Rex is actually very clever placement, because the nodes there put quite a lot of debuffs on you, and T-Rex does as well, quite obviously, put several armor breaks on you. And with that, there is a node that reduces your ability accuracy, and then your parries can fail, and then all sorts of bad things can happen, basically. It's definitely quite clever placement, but my Alliance War Officer had seen it before, knew for a fact that Shang-Chi is a very suitable counter for that. So that is actually the specific reason why I did bring in Shang-Chi for that fight. I'm sure Shang-Chi could have handled a couple more of the fights that I did take, but Nick Fury overall seemed like a safer option afterwards. Here, I do get a tiny mess up at the start and eat 2 hits, but as soon as I land in my Wushu strikes, Wushu cleansing strikes. So that's the light medium combo that purifies a bunch of stuff, that also puts on, well, those cleanse charges on me, and then a level 2 just seals the deal. So it's actually a very quick fight that on paper is really scary, but if you do bring a good counter, you can finish out relatively quickly. Next up, I'm moving to the right side, and this is Immortal Hulk. Now, Immortal Hulk actually is quite a good placement here as far as I'm concerned, because Immortal Hulk has like the 3rd highest health pool, or the highest health pool in the game. I actually think he has one of the highest health pools in the game, if not the highest. And on top of that, when you do make a mistake, he can effectively one-shot you. like if he starts womboing and comboing, and you know, he can get the job done with like very scary efficiency. On top of that, obviously, if you're not using a Nick Fury or damage or time effects, he will go immortal. But here's why Nick Fury is such a perfect counter, is because majority of his damage does come from bleeds, and Immortal Hulk does not actually generate much gamma from damage or time effects, unless it's degeneration. So with that, we can see that he's only at 8 gamma, whilst he's at like 20-something%. And so long as I don't get stunned, I will finish this fight with 99% health. So it did go very easy, but it is actually quite a good placement. I like that idea behind that placement as well, but it's just Nick Fury once again is showcasing exactly why he is the money maker, and in my personal opinion, by far the best skill champion in the game currently. Now this next fight on Path 9, it's also very intellectual placement, so to speak. This is Magneto. When you go up against Magneto, you will never want to bring in metal champions, so that automatically discounts a significant portion of attackers. And then on top of that, you can't really stun the guy, and even if you do manage to stun him, if you do damage to him while he's stunned, it's reflected on you. So it is a good placement indeed, and obviously then you have to deal with Magneto's unstoppable ability itself. And Captain America Infinity War, though, is pretty much a perfect counter, because you can just sit behind your block, bait out those heavy attacks, and punish Nullify the Unstoppable. He's not metal champion, so his ability accuracy is fine, his block proficiency is beast, and that's the entire plan. I'm playing this as safe as possible. I'm not really planning to evade the level 1s. I'm even taking those on block for most part, and level 2s, and I'm taking as much block damage as humanly possible in this fight, because Captain Infinity War is tanky enough. I can clearly see that I'm leading the health pool battle, and the entire plan is just, again, to stay as safe as possible, block every single hit, bait out heavy attacks, punish them, get 3 bars of power, charge up my heavy, use my level 3, and do damage. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Also, the critical bit, I suppose, is not to parry, but Captain America Infinity War, as long as he has a kinetic charge, would also cover me for that. That is another reason why he's such a great placement here. Because if I were to get stun reflected upon me or get parried, then, you know, he has ability to nullify that. And since this 5-star is max sig, there will be guaranteed purification of that stun. And here I'm at 49%, and I drop level 3, and that takes out the Magneto. So far, so good. Tons of block damage. But, you know, that's all fine. Here's a picture of a stray cat that I'm actually trying to catnap eventually. Ever since we moved to the new place, there have been a couple of strays that have been coming here every day, and, you know, we're feeding them, and eventually we want to get them to vet, check if they're microchipped, and check if they're healthy, and we'll see what happens then. But moving on, so this is slightly later to finish off the fights that I have left. And at this point, I guess it's important that I tell the story of how this alliance war went. We had a horrible, horrible start. We actually died 3 times under like 50 or 60 attacker kills. So we had a horrible start. GT40 was at 0 for a very, very long time. And the war was all but lost. Then, however, GT40 started to get KO'd. And effectively, they gifted us the war by dying 4 times. For few minutes. For a few minutes, we were in the lead. And then unfortunately we died. And it was clear that we would be losing out on the new time tiebreaker, which I think is a really, really shitty tiebreaker. And then we died again, and I think again. And I think the final score is either 5-4 or 6-4 as a loss for New Nation. It was a really close war. Unfortunately, it did not end up quite well for New Nation. And I think that's important in context as well, because you guys saw that Silver Surfer was KO'd there, and after this fight, you can see that there's going to be a Black Widow Deadly Origins, which technically I was kind of supposed to take, but somebody rushed in, which, you know, they shouldn't have, but at that point war was already lost as well, so, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But in general, definitely a very bad start for the season, especially for my battle group. We're going to get to that in a bit. But first we have Overseer against Nick Fury. And Nick Fury, again, is perfect counter for this Overseer, because you see that auto block that he has? Nick Fury doesn't care about it. Well, you could wait it out anyways. But if Nick Fury does get auto blocked, he goes stun immune and inflicts a bleed on opponent. So you basically ignore the auto block, kind of. And that's it. And obviously you do have the class advantage and everything else is going on for you. So you can see that it was extremely, extremely basic fight. Again, just baiting out heavy attacks and, you know, finishing combos with light, doing bleed damage. And jabs are good. And tried to auto block, did not matter. Yeah, now that Black Widow Deadly Origins, I was kind of meant to take her from the get-go. But, you know, it's fine. No, not much problem there to sweep up what's remaining. And I think I will heal Nick Fury up a bit, which definitely wasn't necessary. I gave them the smallest team health potion that I had there for war. And then I can move on. And Nick Fury against Black Widow Deadly Origins. Now, typically, I have used the Mole Man for this fight in the past, which I actually do think is probably better. But I had Nick Fury for this fight, and, you know, Nick Fury was definitely going to work well enough anyways. Especially considering I still had the life model decoy active, and that's it. So the plan is to push her to level 2s, ideally, and just, again, block bait heavy attacks. Again, very, very safe, no fancy shenanigans. That's what war is about, for me, at the very least. I'd rather take 50 times more block damage, or, I don't know, half of my health in block damage, than miss an intercept and, you know, get wrecked in the face. I can and I will intercept if I feel that I have to, or if I feel that I'm extremely kind of like fluid in the fight. But, you know, ideally I'd rather not. Top of that, we can see that I did make a slight mistake here, but I did have some decent evades of heavy attacks against the wall. I waited out until her evade charge went away, and then I just carried on and finished the fight. We do have that Untouchables defensive tactic, and that was another reason why I didn't want to let her evade, because she would have gained a whole bunch of power, and obviously that's not something I want. So yeah, I just sat at the wall, took some block damage, evaded the heavy attacks well enough, and yeah, just waited out that evade charge. And now against Mr. Fantastic, I could have taken this fight safe. I possibly should have healed up. But I had a plan to go in my real Nick Fury phase, because I knew this is going to be the last fight of the war for me anyways. And I also knew that without Magneto pre-fight, the fight is not easy here. And that's why I decided to go to real Nick Fury with the level 1 ready. And as soon as my life model decoy got destroyed, I dropped to level 1. He can't evade anymore. I drop another level 1, I go fully unblockable, and the fight is pretty much over as long as I don't eat like a level 2. And, you know, that's not the hardest thing to evade. And here we are. Just another fight finished with a light hit, and Mr. Fantastic goes down. So fairly straightforward, nothing too crazy, nothing too impressive, but it was a good war in terms of the fights that I had. Because I felt that they are, like, you know, decent difficulty, and I was actually quite happy with the way that I played them, in the sense that, you know, there were no shenanigans. I did exactly everything by the book, you know, and it worked out well. I kind of like barely got hit, I think only against that Terax double tap on my Shang-Chi, but that was absorbed by invulnerability boost, and then like 1 or 2 hits by Black Widow Deadly Origin, whilst I still had life model decoy active. Other than that, it was like very smooth sailing for most part, just sticking to the plan that my officers had laid out for me, and, you know, worked out fantastic. Now, unfortunately, I actually made this one for myself, because unfortunately, you can see that when I finish my fights, and slightly after this screenshot is close to the war finish, we were losing the war 4-5, and I believe 4 of those deaths came from BG3. So that didn't feel great. It definitely doesn't feel good to be in the battle group that lets other 2 battle groups down and start the season with a loss. Obviously very shitty feeling, and you know, people are being upset and stressed and pissed off, and you know, that's not what you want to see in an alliance, especially a new alliance. So hopefully we do our best, we pull together, and well, how better wars going forward. That being said, I hope that you guys did enjoy this war video. All the credit to GT40 for taking the W in this one. And yeah, I'll be back with the next one in a few days. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the